Hello, I'm Stephen Watson of SomedayFarm.org. This is a video I've been thinking about for 6 months maybe, and it's about a project that I've been thinking about for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, I don't know. And I let that idea rattle around in my head and find some form in my notes for a few years, and then I introduced it to the world just as a really simple idea, like a title. And I got very little feedback or interest or commentary or criticism or questions. I then created a group on Facebook and invited people, and in the last maybe year I've had a bunch of people join the group, but I've noticed that almost nobody replies or engages. So I felt like, hey, we're forming a group, we can get this thing to be substantive and functional, but it doesn't seem like that's happening in the group. So anyway, I want to tell you, I'm thinking of this video as the gestation of the idea, which I called Homework for Humanity. I'm going to try not to sound complaining in my expression of the story, and I'd invite you or encourage you not to be defensive. So when I talk about some of the stuff, I think it'll be easy to miss what I'm talking about if you have a reflexive defensiveness and kind of talk to the screen and say, that's not the true in my case. Please just kind of hear me, and I'll try not to be too complaining, and please try not to be defensive. So anyway, I've been teaching for, I guess, about 30 years, maybe a little bit more, so somewhere in there. And the overall, vast majority of my experience is that I assign homework and it's not done. And I think homework is intensely, exceedingly important. And I kind of keep renewing this hope whenever I assign it, because in my brain I know this won't be done, even if somebody writes it down or nods or asks questions to get clarity on the homework. It won't be done. Now, of course, that's not true in every case, but really, like, almost all the time it's true with almost everybody. And of course, that's not even talking about when the homework does get done. Is it done effectively, consistently, for an appropriate duration with the appropriate attention paid to it, appropriate attention to notes. So this is where I could become complaining, but I always just feel like, if people would just do the homework, we could build on what you've now done with the homework. And I really don't feel like I've had that opportunity in my career. Again, I'm talking about in the overall. So I started to think, well, what would my fantasy be, right? My fantasy would be that I would say to somebody, a group, a couple of people, an individual, just once, here's what needs to happen for the health of the human being, for the growth of the human being. This, basically, assign homework. And then they would go do it. And again, the fantasy, or maybe not again, I haven't said it yet, but the fantasy isn't to teach the lesson, it's just to assign the homework. Because again, I spend almost all of my time teaching, and then a bit of it assigning homework. And then my experience is that people spend their time not doing the homework, and they come back for the teaching. And I kind of feel like if I didn't even teach it, if I just said, look, and I believe I can say it well in a way that actually communicates the real lesson and isn't without clarity, I can say, here's the homework, go do it. And maybe you come back at some point to have a point of clarification, or I thought of something else, or here's the effect I had, and then we can together adjust things, or add something, or take something away, or offer a lesson to support what was kind of iffy in the experience of doing the homework. So in my fantasy, I wouldn't teach. I would just say, here's what you have to do. Like, for example, I teach Tai Chi a lot. Imagine if I could just say, you need to be efficient in the use of your soft tissues. That would be the homework, as opposed to me teaching all the different ways to try and get you to do that. And then you went off and you did it, or your group. And maybe you just go once and you figure it out. Maybe you just say, hey, I got it. You come back 13 years later and say, hey, remember that 2-sentence homework you gave me? I've been working on it. Here's what I can do. Now, to further the fantasy, I thought, I know nobody's going to do it. I'm not going to just say, be kind to everyone all the time. Be kind to everything all the time. Be kind to every not thing all the time, right? That would be the homework. Now, I know people aren't going to do it. But again, I'm thinking, here's my fantasy. Be kind to everyone all the time. Be kind to everything all the time. Be kind to every not thing all the time. There's your homework. So that was my fantasy. The second part of the fantasy is, that's the whole point. That's the whole lesson. You can pay me for that, right? I said it's a fantasy. So that was rattling around in my head, really just that. I thought maybe at the time, I think it was Twitter at the time, I thought maybe I'll just create a Twitter account called Homework for Humanity, which I did, but it had like an abbreviation like H4H or H2 Humanity. I forgot what it is. If you're interested, I could look it up. But I thought, maybe in my mind, the homework is just a small thing and Twitter is a small thing. I could just put it out there. People would share it. A community would form. Some people would pay me, right? Something like that. But that didn't happen. No engagement. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll put it out there. This is, I think on Facebook, and maybe start a group and like see if people are interested. And then I even created a payment link. Like, here's my online store. If you want to pay like $8 a month or whatever it is, then we'll begin doing Homework for Humanity. And I thought I would just post things. And maybe they're in video form or text form or an essay, or I don't really know. But I would put out there, and I thought we'd form a community, and that hasn't happened. So super disappointing, but maybe not super disappointing. It was exactly what I expected. But if you can not have the expectation and also not have it met and still call it disappointed, that's where I am. So then I went into the group that I had hoped people would reply or question or interact, and they haven't. And I said, let's set up a meeting, thinking I would kind of explain all this in a meeting and Q&A, and very few people had a response. So again, semi-disappointment, whatever that is. And now I'm at this point where I thought, well, let me just speak to the camera and explain as best I can this idea at the state of gestation. Can I get people to pay me for the most important part of what I do, which is to assign homework? And again, I'm not just like Googling what's a good homework for this. This homework comes from deep thought, deep distillation, deep experience, deep wisdom, which might not be my own, and provided in a way that if you really just look at this is all that you need. This is elegant homework. Not necessarily easy, but a very simple. Like, I imagine like the Homework for Humanity lessons, if we called it that, or assignments, maybe homework, would be like poems, like haiku, like very, very short. So I also created a Google Classroom for this. So I thought, people that are paid would get access to that. And then I don't know how often I'd post. This is all stuff I'd want to discuss. Should I do something every day? Should I do something every week, once a month, every season, every year, or whatever, or randomly, and just put this stuff out there. And then maybe for each homework, there could become a discussion group, and maybe we meet on it, or maybe I film little lessons on it, or maybe you have feedback or a book to recommend on the top, whatever it is. I don't know exactly the shape. That's why this is just the gestation. I guess it's just the gestation. I guess it's just the gestation. Anyway, That's kind of the whole idea. So if you're interested, reach out. Let me know you want in. Love.